is up, guys? Back to break down the college football slate. The main slate for today for DraftKings, and I see we want some FanDuel love today. So I'll be sure to touch on that. I've got FanDuel pulled up. I've got our night slate sheet pulled up. There's one spot that I think I'll be playing for FanDuel if I was playing. I won't be playing on FanDuel, but I'll definitely touch on it as we go. So if you all have not joined us over at patreon.com, be sure to join with the link below. I've also dropped it in the comments. $10 for one sport, $20 for all sports. You get everything that we cover: soccer, college football, NFL, MMA, baseball, NBA coming back up, college basketball coming up soon. Got a ton going on. NASCAR, Xfinity today, Cup tomorrow. Be sure to join us over there. You get access to every sheet that we have. Also, be sure to try out Prize Picks. Use the promo code Jaeger. Match bonus up to $100 when you sign up using that code. And then also, we have a new partnership with Fanshare Sports. Use the promo code Jaeger there as well and get 20% off. They have a lot for PGA and NASCAR, or not PGA and NASCAR, PGA and NFL, NFL ownership projections. They have the optimizer, how many tags people have talked about them across the industry. A lot going on over there, so be sure to sign up. We really wanted to get you all access to an optimizer, so be sure to try that out. So I'm going to hop on into the slate. It's an awesome slate today overall. We don't have any teams that I think are just set to completely blow the doors off of anybody except one, and that's actually a game that I'm not targeting. So I think we see a little spread ownership today with this many games. I think that makes the slate a lot better overall for us because we don't have to try to pick, well, who's going to score the 6 touchdowns for Ohio State today or something against Akron. I know that I think that's on the night slate maybe, but we don't have to deal with it for the main slate. So it's going to be a fun one. We got Tennessee, Florida tonight on the late slate. That'll be a fun one. That's a game that I'm going to talk about for FanDuel when I get there. There's a play that I'll definitely touch on for that. But let's hop into the slate today. I am going to, let's see here. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to make sure I've not missed any news in the last few minutes. Not been. Okay, so don't see any main slate news that I'm missing. That's also something, if you're in our Discord, be sure to check out the CFB News channel. We have all the news feeding in from a couple different Twitter handles. So be sure to check that out. It's always going to be more up to date even than just me going in and posting something in the Discord for you. So I'm going to go ahead and hop on over. If you all have any questions as we go, be sure to drop them in the chat, and I'll be sure to check the chat every now and then and touch on those, answer them as we go for you. All right, so first game of the slate, and I'm going to share the screen here with the sheet. We have Missouri and Boston College. Missouri is a -1 favorite in this one, 58 total. So pretty close game, fairly high spread. How many options do we have to go to from here? So Missouri, I think Tyler Beatty, the running back, is the main interest for me at 6,900. I think he's been getting tons of work through the year. I think this is a fine matchup for him against Boston College. Not great, but not bad. And he gets so much work. I think you need to. he's one of the priorities at running back for me today. Phil Jerkovich is out for Boston College, so Grossell is in. We've seen him some last year. He's 5,900. I don't think I have much interest in him, but you could pair him with the outside receivers. Zay Flowers would be the first option there. Pat Garwo, the running back, and Missouri not so great against the run. So if you wanted to go to the running game, I think you could go there to Garwo, but he would be GPP only for me. Grossell, maybe some Zay Flowers. Without Grossell, I think is a fine option as well. He's going to be the guy that's mainly targeted by any quarterback that's in this offense. Moving on to game number 2, Georgia and Vanderbilt. I talked about there's one game that somebody's going to blow the doors off the other side, and it's Georgia, minus 36 favorite, 54.5 total against Vanderbilt. Georgia in a great matchup, projected to score 45, but I just really don't have a ton of interest in this game at all. I think there's question marks as to how long will Georgia push these guys, and even if that rotate a lot back and forth at many different positions. So I'm just really not interested in that, and I'm obviously not interested in Vanderbilt against this Georgia defense. So I'll make that one quick. LSU, Mississippi State. LSU is a minus 1.5 favorite, 55.5 total. This was the first game last year, I think, for both of these schools, and Missouri State took it to LSU, coming off their national championship year before, and they really stuck it to them. I don't know if we see quite that this year as far as the scoring. LSU, Max Johnson is 8,300. I definitely have some interest in him. He throws it a ton, not a bunch of rushing upside, but throws it a ton. And against this defense, if they get into a shootout, that could make some sense. Butte, 7,700 is the main interest for me in this game overall, and especially on the LSU side. I'm still watching some news for Trey Palmer. If we do get Trey Palmer out, I think Deion Smith at 4K would be a value option, and Jack Beck at 5,300 would also be a value option. So I think those are some things to watch out for. But Keyshawn Butte, I need to listen at how to pronounce that one, but he's a top wide receiver option for me on this slate at 7,700. On the Mississippi State side, Will Rogers is kind of similar to Max Johnson in that he's got to get there through the air to get there fantasy wise. Makai Polk would be his top option so far this year, 6,200. I think you can play him. If you play Rogers, I think you need 2 of these receivers or one of the running backs and one of the receivers, because the running backs do get involved quite a bit in the pass game. But Polk and Heath at 5,900 would be kind of the only 2 options I'm looking at. Jaden Wally was kind of the guy I thought coming into the year that would get the big bump. Looked very good to end last year, but I don't think – did I say Missouri State again? Oh, my gosh. Okay. Like I said, going back and forth is not very good. But Mississippi State, the only real interest I have is that passing game, Will Rogers to Heath or Makai Polk. So moving on to the next one, we get Texas Tech and Texas. The rivalry matchup, Texas is a 9-point favorite, 62.5 total. I think this is a one that we got to be interested in to some extent. As a I'm going to butcher all names and team names as well today, but as a Kunama, 7,000 is the top interest for me. Shuck at 6,500 is GPP only. I still don't know. I'm pretty sure that's right. I don't know how they pronounce his name, Shuck, but they do apparently. And he is, I think he does have some rushing upside. I think you could go there in GPPs if you thought this game shoots out. I think I would only do it in a game stack of this game. Geiger and Kuntz. Geiger's 5,600, Kuntz 4,100. If you want to full on stack that passing attack, I think you could go to one of those with Ezekanuma. I don't know. Maybe you all know how to say that one. Maybe you can type and pronounce that one for me. But 7,000, he gets tons of targets. I think you can go there and then stack him up with one of the other ones if you're playing Shuck. Texas side, Casey Thompson is now the starter over Hudson Card, 7,200. I think you can definitely go there. He should have the reins of this offense. I don't think you're going to see much swapping in and out or anything with Hudson Card in this type of game. Bijan Robinson is also 7,200, gets work through the passing game, does everything for this offense. I think he's one of the top running back options for me. Jordan Whittington is definitely my favorite Texas receiver. I don't think you have to pair two with Casey Thompson, so I don't think I'm going to get past Jordan Whittington if I'm playing the Texas passing game. It's going to be those three for me: Thompson, Bijan Robinson, and Jordan Whittington. I'm going to check chat, make sure if we have any question. Ezu Kunma. Okay. I don't know. I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to move on. You can play him if you want. TCU 9.5 favorites, 65.5 total, one of the higher totals on the slate today. And I definitely have interest in the TCU side. So I'll start there. Max Duggan is maybe the top QB option on the slate for me at 8,700. We know what he can do with his legs. He's had big games in the past. We've been playing him for 2 or 3 years, I feel like now. And in this type of matchup against a not very good SMU defense, he is on the top of the list for me today. Zach Evans, 6,200, looks to have took the reins in this backfield. And if so, he's a guy that I want to target at only 6,200 for sure. So he's very in consideration. And then Quentin Johnson, 8,200 is the top receiver for TCU. I think those are the three main guys that I'm going to be targeting. There are some fringe receivers behind them, but I really don't want to touch those. I want to get these main guys in there: Duggan, Zach Evans, and Quentin Johnson. I think you can play all three together if you want to. You don't have to play all three. You can go just the running back, just the passing game. But I do like both sides of that for this entire TCU offense today. For SMU, obviously, you have some interest in running it back if you're full on stacking TCU. They don't have as good a matchup, I don't think. I think Tanner Mordecai is a little overpriced at 9,000. Transfer from Oklahoma, I believe. I think the only place I would use him is if you want to game stack the game. Danny Gray is 7,100, would be the top option for me to pair with him, or you could just play him by himself running it back. Reggie Roberson is 4,500 as well. I think you could go there. Grant Calcaterra is 49 and Rashee Rice is 6,300. Both of those are fine, but I think the only time I would ever get to those if I was playing Mordecai with two receivers, and then even then it'd be tough to get to them. You'd really just have to be making multi-entry and going heavier on SMU. I will be more on the TCU side, but this is one of my favorite games of the day. So Gray and Roberson on the run back is definitely viable. Moving on, we've got Notre Dame, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a 6.5 point favorite, 44 total, the lowest total on the slate today. So a game that I don't have much interest in. Really, the only guys that I would even think about is actually on the Notre Dame side. Because they priced these guys down. The three of Kyron Williams is 5,700. He's got a tough matchup. Kevin Austin, 4,900, I think would actually be my favorite here, just because of the upside that he has through the air and the big plays. And then Michael Mayer is playable, I guess, at 5,700, but nobody that I'm really just going out of my way to target for sure. Probably nobody in this game I'm going to touch in a single entry or 3 max. So the only time I would touch any of those 3 is in 20 max type builds. I'm going to check and see if there's any questions. No, not right now. So be sure to drop those in if you got them about any of these games that I'm talking about. I like this to be interactive. Instead of just me talking to you, it helps me out a little bit too. But if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in. Boise State, Utah State. This is the biggest total on the slate right now. Boise State's a 9.5-point favorite. We obviously got to have interest in this game, and Boise State is the side that I'll start on. Hank Bachmeier is fine. He's nothing special. He doesn't get it done with his legs very often. 7,300 is a decent price, though. I think you could pair him up with Khalil Shakir, who would be definitely the favorite option for Boise State for me, and he's one of the top receivers on the slate. We're still, I believe, unless I've missed it very recently, waiting on news for C.T. Thomas and Cobbs. They're questionable. If they are both out, we could get a little value behind Khalil Shakir with Davis Cutter at 4,700. But really the main interest, like I said, is Khalil Shakir at 7,200. I'll have him quite a bit today. Utah State does provide some value as well, coming back on the other side. The question is, will they continue to split the quarterback snaps with Logan? Don't, and they'll just stick with Logan Bonner. He's only 5,600 and the biggest total on the slate. I think he's definitely playable. Will we have the news of, yeah, he's going to get most all the snaps today? I mean, that's the way it looked last week until he got dinged a little bit. And then Peasley came in and looked pretty good as well. But 5,600 is very underpriced for this matchup and a quarterback in this matchup. And then he's got receiver Devin Tompkins at 8,000, who is just one of the top receivers in the country numbers-wise right now. So I think you could play him, no doubt. You could just play the top 2 receivers in this game if you wanted to, Shakir and Devin Tompkins. I don't mind some value for Utah State in the receiving core with Justin McGriff, 3,900. And then for GPPs, maybe Brandon Bowling, who came over with Bonner and the coaching staff from Arkansas State at 6,900. He's looked pretty good to start the year as well. The last option, and one of the top options in this game for me, maybe my favorite side of Utah State, is Calvin Tyler. Looked to have taken the reins of the backfield last week. And if he continues that, he gets a good matchup here. Like I said, biggest total on the slate. He's only 5,500, which is the bigger deal. So I think he's very playable. I think he's one of the, maybe he's neck and neck point per dollar with Devin Tompkins as the best play on Utah State. So the top 3 for me is definitely Shakir, Tyler, and Tompkins. If you want to full stack this game, I think you can do it. If you want to take the chance on Logan Bonner or Hank Bachmeier, I think you could do it. But kind of a tough ask for both of these quarterbacks. There's some question marks around fantasy-wise around both. Texas A&M and Arkansas. Texas A&M is missing quite a bit today. There's, as of the last time I updated them a few minutes ago, still 5.5-point favorites and a 47 total. I have maybe a little too much interest on the Arkansas side today. The pricing is kind of crazy for the way that this Arkansas team has looked. It scares me that the total and the fact they're still underdogs and going up against a very good pass defense in Texas A&M. But I still think we can have some interest. So Arkansas, Kj Jefferson is 5,700. This guy gets it done with his legs. Let me switch over to the quarterback tab. 5,700. He's got 24 carries for 180 and 2 TDs on the year. Obviously, they had the upset of Texas, so he looked good there. He's 9,000 on FanDuel. I don't think I would play him there with some of the other options that I'll talk about in the late games. But Arkansas, I know it's a tough matchup, but I think you can definitely play KJ Jefferson and hope he gets it done on the ground. Other than that, Traylon Burks, if you wanted to pair a receiver with Jefferson, it would be him. And then Traylon Smith is the GPP only guy at running back for me. So Burks and Jefferson are the two favorites on for me today for Arkansas. And you don't have to pair Traylon Burks with Jefferson. We're playing Jefferson because of his legs, not necessarily his arm. So you don't have to play Burks unless you just want to stack that side up. Texas A&M, man, this is a tough one. They're going with, let me find him, Zach Calzada, and I'll probably butchered that one too, but he's 6,800. He's fine. I don't think I'm going to have any interest in him in this low of a total, though. Doesn't look like he gets very much with his legs. I think Isaiah Spiller, the running back, would be the only option that I'm really targeting for A&M today or would have any interest in. Jalen Werdemeyer would kind of be the other one with some depletion in the receiving cores for me today. Moving on, we get Louisville, Florida State. This is a 61 total. Could be a little sneaky, I think. Both team totals up over 30 and a -1 favorite for Louisville. What I don't think is sneaky is Malik Cunningham at 8,800. I think the upside we've seen with his legs, I think he'll have a little ownership today. Ford is the tight end is really the only receiver that I can even they mix and match Braden Smith and some of these other guys. But 5,500 is fine if you want to pair him with Malik Cunningham. Jalen Mitchell looked to have a pretty good week a week ago, but he's GPP only at 5,100. So, and on the other side, it's equally as tough. Even though I think this game could shoot out a little bit, it's tough to find where that's going to be coming from. I think Jashawn Corbin in the mid-range at running back is definitely an option. Mackenzie Milton is fine if you wanted to go there, but I don't think with what we've seen out of him lately, I don't think I'll be doing it. So Corbin's really at 5,600 is the only option that I'm looking at for the Florida State side today. But definitely could be a shootout type game. I mean, this is one of the higher totals on the slate in a game that the defenses are not very good. You can see Florida State 116th against the pass, and Louisville is 95th, and Louisville 87th against the run, whereas Florida State is 65th. So I think Cunningham is a very good play at the quarterback position today. Clemson Nc State. Nc State is a 10.5-point dog to Clemson. This has climbed back up over 10.5. I think it was 9.5 a day or two ago. 47.5 total. We have seen this Clemson offense just look dreadful, and I'm not going to hop back on them here. It's just not a game that I really want to target, get any part of. Shipley at 5,800 would be the only guy I'll even mention in this entire game for Clemson. It looks like it's his backfield now getting most of the volume. So if you wanted to go with that, I wouldn't hate it for GPPs. Iowa State and Baylor. This is projected to be a slower game, 45.5 total. So the second lowest total on the slate, and Iowa State's a 7-point favorite. I think the only real option that I'm considering from Iowa State, and it's not going to be a resounding endorsement by any means, is Breece Hall at 7K. I even wish he was a little cheaper in this matchup, though, because I'm not enthused about it a lot. But the volume that I think we could see out of him today could get him there. And we know what he's capable of. Xavier Hutchinson is 7,500. Is just too overpriced for me. I know he's the main guy in that receiving core, but in this slow of a game, I'm not going to be targeting it. Baylor, Gary Bohannon is 6K, has 3 rushing touchdowns on the year so far. So I think he's in play just because of the price. And if you wanted to pair him up, Tyquan Thornton and RJ Sneed would be the only real options. I'm not touching this game probably in a single entry, just unless I just fell right on Breece Hall and it made everything fit. So not enthused about it, and really not enthused about the last game either. Rutgers and Michigan. Michigan's a 20-point favorite in a 50 total. I think the only spot that I'm touching in this game is going to be the backfield for Michigan. We've seen Corum and Hassan Haskins split. Both are 6,700 and 6,800, and I think Blake Corum is the guy, obviously, that I would be targeting. Just looks very good. Looks like he's going to be a very good back for Michigan. I think he'll overtake Haskins more and more as the year goes along. So I think you can definitely play him in a game that they run it a ton, and they're 20-point favorites, so should get a good game script as well. So Corum is the top option for me for Michigan. So let's see if you all have any questions here before I touch on is he popping in optimizers? Okay. I'm not enthused about Bohannon. He's fine for GPPs, but he's not a guy that I'm just going out of my way. And I don't have Logan Bonner. But down in that cheap range, I would actually rank them Jefferson, Bonner, and then Bohannon of those 3 down there. So I'm not enthused about going there. Shuck, Grossell, or Bonner in Superflex. I guess it depends. Shuck is the only way I would consider him is if you're going heavy on that game overall. Grossell would be third. Bonner would probably be the first one if I had to rank those. So Bonner, even though there's some risk there, just with maybe some rotation, and then Shuck and then Grossell in that. Out of those, Shakir, Lock City. I don't mind it. I don't know if I'll lock him if I was doing a 20 max, but I would get very close. I think it's a very good play today, and we're getting some news coming in. Stephon Cobbs is warming up, but no official update, it looks to say. So that would take away some of that value that I talked about for Boise State with Davis Cutter. That would kind of take that away, and it would make it where Shakir is kind of the only guy that I'm targeting in that for the Boise State side, honestly. All right, so if there's no questions, I'm going to pop over to FanDuel and then to our night slate sheet so I can kind of talk about those. And Mike, if you are still watching, you're going to be very happy with the endorsement I'm about to make for FanDuel. And it's going to be for one of the late games with Emery Jones. I think you play Emery Jones against this Tennessee team. I think he's got a nice floor, obviously, with rushing. That gives him an upside as well. So I think Emery Jones is going to be the guy that I would be playing if I was going to that side of it. Let's see here. Trying to get the slate up. And again, he's a guy that you don't have to pair with the receivers. So Emery Jones against this Tennessee team is probably one of the top QB options for me on this slate for FanDuel, that is. Yeah, Stringely is out. I think I seen that right before we came on. I seen the tweet about that, and I think in that tweet it said that he was out last year for the Mississippi State game. So that definitely helps the Mississippi State side, Polk, and those receivers with if you want to play that passing game, I think you could definitely do it. So, yeah, it definitely ups my interest in Makai Polk, Heath, Rogers, and maybe the running backs if you wanted to go there too. So, yeah, nice news there, Josh. All right, I've got the night slate sheet up. So in that night slate, I'm hoping, yeah, so North Carolina, and let me share this one. I'm going to share this sheet. Okay. So I've got the night slate sheet up. As you can see, the top two totals on the slate is North Carolina and Georgia Tech. North Carolina's a 12.5-point favorite. Florida's an 18.5-point favorite, projected to put up 40. So, yeah, really like Emery Jones if we're going to go there. And he is priced at 9,800 on FanDuel. So he would be one of the top options. I need to hide that because we don't actually have a night slate for FanDuel. Sam Howell, I know he got the horrid UVA defense last week, but this guy has shown some rushing upside. I think Sam Howell is a guy that I would definitely have interest in. On FanDuel, he is, let's see here, 11.5, which is a little tougher, but pairing him with Josh Downs, let's see how much that leaves you left. That leaves you about 7,700 on average per player. This is a very good matchup, like I said. So I think he would kind of be the number 2 quarterback for me as far as the night games on FanDuel. It's kind of tough. It is one of the higher totals and one of the better matchups. So he's got to be one of the top QBs overall for FanDuel as well. I still probably, I'm trying to see what, let's see, TCU. Duggan's 10.6, so a little bit off of Sam Howell. The Texas guys are is 87, so I don't mind that at all. And what is Jefferson's 9,000, like I said, not going there on FanDuel. So I think if you're throwing in, I've already talked about all the early games for FanDuel, but if you're throwing in the late games, definitely target the North Carolina, Georgia Tech, and then the Florida, Tennessee game. Kansas State, Oklahoma State is also on there. Don't really have a ton of interest in that. Let's see here. Yeah, I think those are really the only spots. Those two high total games are really the only ones that I'm going to throw in there for the FanDuel slate today. So I think if Emery Jones, Max Duggan, or Sam Howell, and then try to make it work, I think is where I would look. Like I said, I don't play on FanDuel a whole lot, but just kind of throwing those out there for the guys that do and the ones that are playing the all-day slate on FanDuel. All right. So if there's any questions, drop them in here. I'm going to hop off. We've got about an hour until lock, so I'll stay on here a couple more minutes. I'm going to play with a build right here, and then I will hop off here. So let me get that pulled up. Okay. I'm going to kind of show you the route that I'm looking at right now for you guys that have stayed on here. As it loads. All right. So the route that I'm kind of looking at here is, all right, so I've got everything Contest-wise, I've got everything reserved today for all sports. So let's see here. Let me pull up TCU. So that's kind of where I'm starting. I think Max Duggan, and if you want to play Zach Evans, and if you want to play Quentin Johnson, I think those are some top options. I mentioned some of those running backs that I really liked. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Beatty, Zach Evans, of course, and Calvin Tyler, a little cheaper down the line. So if you throw Tyler in there and also a high total game, let's see. So I need to zoom in a little bit for you all, I believe. All right, let me see if you all can see that good. Okay, a little better. So throw in Calvin Tyler, and then back on the other side, like I mentioned, Khalil Shakir. I don't know how he's not higher than 7,400. So this kind of puts us in a spot that we're going to need to save money, and that's where those cheap second quarterbacks come into play. And unfortunately, I think we're going to have to find us a cheap receiver because there's not tons and tons of value today. So like there's McGriff, if you want to go that route, like I said, but there's some other guys down there that I'm going to have to dig a little more because there's not any that just completely pop out that we can throw in there and make it all work. So the route that I was kind of thinking about is Jefferson at quarterback, and that leaves you 4,100. So you still got to have some value there. So you just kind of got to play around with it and make it work. But that's the core of what I'm going toward today is TCU, obviously Shakir, and then kind of making it all work from there. There's not really a second quarterback that I'm dying to play unless it's a game stack situation that I want to play. Let's see, Casey Thompson and Tyler Shuck. And if I want to do something like that, you could definitely do that. Or LSU and Mississippi State, Max Johnson and Will Rogers. Unless you're building a bunch of teams and you're doing something like that, will be a quarterback in the super flex for me today. Is going to be just a guy that kind of falls in. If you can get the cheap stack with Jefferson or play Bonner down there, I think you could play Bonner and McGriff. McGriff is one of the cheaper options at receiver that we could go to. So just kind of playing around with it to make it work. I'm going to post a core today. It'll be something similar to this. But I will post the core in the chat as I get closer as we get closer to lock, probably by 11:30. And you'll also have my rankings up on the sheet as well. So be sure to check that out. Good luck to everybody today. And let's have some winning picks in the Discord. Good luck, everybody.